I mean, crime is absolutely out of control. The federal component to that is our southern border. Day one, what Biden did, he said the border's wide open, and now we've had, we don't know, 4 million illegal immigrants come into our country. Enough fentanyl's been pumped into our country to kill every single American 2-3 times over. And the number one killer of Americans right now, ages like 15 to 50, it's fentanyl. It's not what the media is saying, you know, white supremacy or Vladimir Putin. It is fentanyl that's being shoved from our southern border into our communities via sanctuary cities. Just last week, the DEA released a bulletin warning all their field offices, the Drug Enforcement Agency, warning all their field offices that going into Halloween, a lot of the fentanyl that they're catching is shaped like Skittles and lollipops. And the pictures they used in their bulletin that went out to all their field offices were taken in Multnomah County. So it's moving its way up the I-5 corridor right through our district. So that's the federal level, what they've done. And again, there's not one Democrat out there who's saying, hey, maybe we should secure the border and we should stop this. This is a problem. We need to protect our people. There's not one Democrat saying that at the federal level or at the state level. And then here at the state level, it's absolute insanity. You guys all know that the horrible package of bills that was passed back in October that basically took away our police officers' ability to go out and conduct policing proactively to keep us safe, decriminalize drugs, and then now we have this other bill that's going to start releasing felons, violent felons, out of jail because they're repealing the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. And right now we have a child killer, a guy who killed a 14-year-old girl who's getting ready to be released from jail in Vancouver. And the Democrats at the local level in the 49th LD, Wiley and Ron Gastonia, they endorsed this bill. They signed on to this bill, and they've endorsed my opponent. When I point blank asked my opponent, she said that she's honored to be endorsed by those representatives. So this is the Democrats' part and parcel. They want an open border, and they want to let criminals out of our jails. Again, I challenge all my independents and Democrat friends, hey, show me the Democrat who's talking against this, who's saying that this is wrong. What's happening in our schools is another great and tragic example. Here in Washington State, as you all know, our schools follow the Planned Parenthood Comprehensive Sex Ed Education Curriculum, which is, amongst other things, very perverse, very graphic, but they also delve heavily into gender ideology. So they basically teach our kids there's multiple genders, you can be confused, but here in Washington State, we also have this mature minor status, where basically the schools from 13 on up, they don't have to tell the parents about the health care that the students are receiving. So the Planned Parenthood sex ed ideology, they have what's called gender affirming care, and Democrats do a great job with their labeling. Gender affirming sounds really, really nice, but what gender affirming care is, it's offering children the ability to get chemical castration via puberty blockers, or some form of a surgery that is essentially mutilating them to change their sex before they reach the age of puberty. And this is the Planned Parenthood doctrine. And this is extremely radical. When you describe it, a lot of people don't believe you until they do their homework. I'd encourage people to watch the What is a Woman documentary by Matt Walsh. She spends a lot of time interviewing a Planned Parenthood doctor in there who goes into depth about what gender-affirming care is and why it's so important, in her own words, to give puberty blockers to children. And this is the mainstream of the Democrat Party right now. Because again, if there was 1 or 2 Democrats out there who had to go back to their districts and explain this, who were like, I am not for this, like I don't support this at all, then we'd have a discussion. Then the Democrats would have room to say, hey, this isn't our doctrine. But I challenge all the Democrats and all the independents, show me the state rep, show me the federal rep, show me the Democratic operative out there who's on TV saying this is wrong. None of them will do it. My opponent's on the record saying she supports Planned Parenthood's government-funded gender-affirming care. And affirming, again, that's that nice word. It's chemical castration, it's mutilation of our children. So this is where the Democrat Party is at. And so all that they're going to do is they're just going to do these personal attacks. If you guys caught the debate, it's still on YouTube. I debated my opponent for about an hour and a half, and really she spent the entire time. The first question we got asked right after that was about inflation, and she's like, Joe Kent's a Nazi. Because that was she did not want to discuss what the Democrats have done to the economy. And that's their methodology. My opponent's getting some support right now from the mainstream media. That's to be expected, that's not a big deal. But they're trying to convert with personal taxes and bringing up abortion. And I think abortion actually, Republicans a lot of times when we're in general elections, it seems like we don't want to talk about abortion. And I do want to point out where the Democrats are. Again, it's another very extreme length the Democrats have gone to the topic of abortion. Now, my opponent attacks me all the time and says I'm a radical because I'm pro-life, I'm a Christian, I believe life begins at conception. And that's where I'm at. But I understand that abortion is a hot button issue. And I understand a lot of people, they don't agree with me. But what they need to understand is where the Democrats are right now. The Democrats believe that someone should be able to terminate a pregnancy up to the 9th month of pregnancy, right until the time of birth. Or after, in many cases, right? Yeah, they don't want to kill the child right after birth. That it should be the mother's decision, as they say, and it should be funded by the taxpayers. And that is incredibly radical, and I think that's too radical. I think that's a bridge too far for your average pro-choice voter. Because if you go and you talk to your average pro-choice voter, they're going to kind of recite what the Democrats would say 10, 15 years ago about abortion being, like safe and rare. That's not what the Democrats are right now. To find anyone or any government who's comparable to the modern Democrat Party in America, you have to go to North Korea or China. All the countries in Europe the Democrats always talk about, they basically have 15-week abortion bans. They're not killing children up until the 9th month of birth. So that's just where the Democrats are right now. So the only thing they have going for them is personal attacks, and they're trying to run everything on Roe versus Wade. So when you're out there having conversations with independents and Democrats, and hopefully you're doing a little bit of door knocking for all the Republicans on the ballot, I would just point out what they've done to the economy, what they're doing with crime, and what they're doing with our children right now. And look, I had my opponent and I, we did a candidates forum the other day, I think yesterday, at the Vancouver Rotary Club, and I think it was a fairly mixed bag as to who was in the audience. I had a Democrat come up to me afterwards, nice older lady, and she said, "Hey, look, I'm a Democrat, and I support, secure borders. I don't want to let killers out of jail, and I think we should be energy independent, and I don't like what's happening in the schools to our kids." So it really offended me what you said. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry that I offended you, but can you show me the Democrat that stands against this?" And she said, well, no, I can't, but you're offending a lot of Democrats when you say that. So I don't know if I won over her vote, but this is the problem. We're trying to get people to grasp onto this, that there's no moderation. Like my opponent's going to go right to Washington, D.C., and like Jim and Joel said, first thing she's going to do is to vote to give Nancy Pelosi, whoever's next. I can't even imagine where the Democrats go after Pelosi. Do they just hand it over to Ilhan Omar or AOC? Like, I don't know where they go from Pelosi. But she's going to vote, and then after that, she's going to get in lockstep. Like Republicans, I'm going to join the Freedom Caucus. Like I said, I wouldn't vote for Kevin McCarthy. Like we're going to have a lot of debates in the Republican Party, because Republicans, we have debates. We have a Republic in front of everybody. And sometimes that's bad, but a lot of times that's good. You at least know what you're getting. But the Democrats, you're getting a bunch of automatons who are going to vote for whoever the leader is. So that's where I'm at. I'm confident with all of your help that we're going to be successful. The reason why we won in the primary, you guys probably got all kinds of hit pieces and saw how much money was dumped against me there towards the end. The only reason I think we overcame that is because we in the primary, it was a long primary, I think about a year and a half, we did about 260 in-person town halls just like this. We knocked on 130,000 doors throughout the district. I did about 2,000 doors myself. So the only reason we won, I think, was because we had personal connections throughout the community. So when the attacks came in, and they're going to keep coming in, because we're getting ready. It's like prime October surprise season. I sort of feel like there's already been enough attacks against me that they're just going to kind of recycle them. So at this point, it's kind of boring. But that's our methodologies. We're knocking on doors. We're doing town halls. We did 3 events yesterday. I did this event here today. I'll be way out in Skamania County. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow. We'll be in Vancouver again tomorrow. So we're all over the place all the time. So that's how we're going to win. I'm confident we'll be successful. And then come January, it's going to be go time. We actually have to really start fighting the Biden administration. We can't just go in there and do the typical midterm flip thing and say, hey, isn't the other side crazy? Aren't the Democrats crazy? If you guys give us money, we'll win in 2024 and turn things around. We can't do that. We have to go to war with the Biden administration and what Pelosi is doing right now. The biggest set of tools that we have, being the Congress, is the power of the purse strings. We can really start withholding funding and using that offensively as a tool. So one of the first things that I want to do is I want to say to the Biden administration, you will turn back on U.S. energy, or we won't fund the federal budget. Like, we will simply cut you guys off. You're going to show me It's basically the only thing that's going to get their attention, and that's our biggest tool. We can go on Fox News, we can complain, we can have all the slick ads, but until we start saying, like, no money's coming in, we'll shut it down, and that's on you, and play that game of chicken who blinks first. I think that's what we have to do to start giving the American people some actual relief. I also think that Joe Biden has met the standards of high crimes and misdemeanors like no president in our nation's history. So day one, I'm signing on the impeachment papers for him, Kamala Harris, and many key members of his administration for what they've done to the country. So Biden. And impeachment is justified. He opened up the border for an attack on our country when he's the commander-in-chief, pretty cut and dry. He left Americans on the battlefield in Afghanistan with that horrible withdrawal. All the compromise and all the corruption with the Chinese Communist Party, with the oligarchs in Ukraine, that's all coming to light now with Hunter's laptop. So we have cleared the house to impeachment. And same thing with Kamala Harris. She was one of the chief funders for Antifa and BLM as they were burning down cities and murdering people while she was the sitting U.S. senator, and she's in charge of the court. So we got them dead to rights as far as it being justified, but it's also tactical. Biden has had his foot, pedal to the metal since he took office. Impeachment makes them go on the defense. They have to wake up every day and say, like, oh, who are the crazy guys in Congress subpoenaing now? It worked really effectively against President Trump. Well, turnabout's fair play. We're going to hit them back with it. We're going to jam them up for the last 2 years of their administration. We're going to start going after key members of his cabinet as well. Mayorkas from DHS for running the border. He needs to get impeached. AG Garland for what he's done with the weaponization of federal law enforcement. Now look, my opponent attacks me all the time. So Joe Kent's crazy. He wants to go after and defund the FBI. Look, we've got the FBI basically being used as a secret police force for the Democrats. They've been targeting, they've been using the FBI counterterrorism task force. I used to work in counterterrorism, and when I was working in counterterrorism, I thought I was trying to keep my country safe. They're using these exact same tools that we were using overseas to hunt terrorists against parents that show up at school board meetings to say, hey, I don't want you to teach my kids that there's like 14 different genders and they might be confused. We caught them red-handed doing this. The FBI whistleblowers right now that are working with the House Judiciary Committee, these are guys from inside the FBI that have provided documents to Jim Jordan and the guys in the Judiciary Committee. They've confirmed that the FBI reallocated resources from going after the child sex trafficking unit over to work on these political cases, going after Biden's political opponents. They say it's domestic extremism, but really it's people that are associated with the Trump movement, the MAGA movement, etc. They reallocated resources from hunting down the people that are killing children to do these political types of operations. So I do think we have to use the tools of the purse string to start getting some actual accountability from these people. The election of 2020 is another huge one. I was asked a couple times on the way in here about people about election integrity. And we can't back down on election integrity. Our election system still is very flawed, especially here in Washington State with unsolicited mail-out ballots, the way that you're able to just go to DMV and get registered to vote without proving you're eligible, the closed code tabulation machines. I think we need to actually have a full inquiry into what actually happened in 2020. Now, I'm realistic. When we prove that there was fraud, we're not going to do the flip switch and have Trump, take back over. But what we can do is show the American people, especially people here in Washington State, that look, this is a horrible way to conduct elections. The mail-out ballots, the closed code tabulation machines, they are simply wrought with fraud, and that's going to give us the ammunition back here to hopefully bring about some change gradually to get us back to voting in person. It's absolutely essential. Same thing with what happened with our country with COVID-19. I mean, if you read the New York Times, you're like, this Joe Kent guy's extreme. He thinks that Fauci murdered people, then yes, I do. I think we need to hold Anthony Fauci accountable. We now know that Fauci was funding gain-of-function research over in Wuhan, and people died as a result. Fauci tried to cover his tracks. He wasn't honest. We could have done things very differently if from the time the pandemic started that Fauci said, hey, boss, actually, I know what this is. I got a pretty good idea. And we can start getting to the bottom of what the actual virus is, as opposed to having this 6 to 8 month period where we had no idea what the heck COVID was while Fauci was covering his tracks. People died as a result. I mean, COVID decimated our economy, right? It was the largest transfer of wealth from small independent businesses, because it was only small independent businesses where the government came in and said, you will close down your business. You can't operate. You're non-essential. However, major global corporations, Walmart, Amazon, all these guys, they didn't just mandate it work. Largest transfer of wealth we've ever had in the history of our country. And then also, what did COVID do to our children? I mean, they lost 2 years of education, and education aside, socially, what did it do to them? I think we've only begun to scratch the surface of the damage that we did to this generation of children. So we do have to hold people accountable. If you look at the way our federal government has been operating for the last several years, they have not been honest with us, and now we're starting to not trust our government, whether it's elections, whether it's people that are a good deal of power over us, like federal law enforcement and the intelligence community. We have to start restoring trust. And they're going to call us radicals for doing that, but we have to start opening it up and showing the American people what's happening there and holding them accountable. That's one of Congress's main functions. And we can do all this while we still have Biden in the White House, and all of this is going to absolutely grind the gears down of Biden's so-called progress, which is absolutely destroying our country. So I think we're going to be able to do that as long as we fight hard. They're going to attack us heavily. But I think the American people are ready for us to go in there and actually be a real opposition party to stop what Biden is doing. It's my belief that if we're given a red wave and we actually take back the House, that the American people have hired us to put a stop to the Biden administration. So we have to deliver on that. Otherwise, we won't be successful in 2024. Going into 24, I want us to be able to just really paint the picture to the American people what the America First agenda is all about. And the only good that's come from what Biden has done to our country is every American right now, they can see what America Last is. I think if you went and you just grabbed some of our fellow members of our community right now that are having dinner or shopping at the grocery store, you say, hey, what do you want the federal government to do? I think right now they would articulate the America First agenda. They might not use the buzzwords, but they would say, the price of the pump's killing me. We need to fix that. Okay, that's energy independence. That's a key tenet of the America First agenda. After COVID, everybody was really exposed to how vulnerable our supply lines are, that we don't make things here anymore in our country. Vital things. We have food insecurity potentially coming up in our nation because of our global supply chains, our dependence on global supply chains. So I think most Americans understand that right now, that we need to bring back all this manufacturing capability here to our country. That's a key tenet of bringing back manufacturing. That's a key tenet of the America First agenda. Immigration. Right now, I think everybody would say, hey, we can't have an open southern border. Kind of common sense. That's not a radical thought right there. That's not just a Trump thing or a Republican thing, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it is now, but it shouldn't be. And I think most Americans are ready for us to have an actual secure border. It's a key tenet of the America First agenda. Foreign policy, and I can get into this more if you guys want, but foreign policy, we got out of Afghanistan in a disastrous way about a year ago, and within a couple of months, they found another war for us to get deeply involved in. We were told that, hey, wait, don't worry about your open southern border. Don't worry about the fact that inflation is stealing a month of your wages. Don't worry about the fact that we can't get baby formula on the shelves in the grocery store to feed our own babies. We need to send billions of dollars to Ukraine. We potentially need to push Russia into a position where now the Russians are talking just a week ago they might have to use nuclear weapons. Now, don't get me wrong, Vladimir Putin's wrong. He should have gone into Ukraine and started killing people. But the only reason Vladimir Putin had enough money to do that is because we killed off U.S. energy production. Trump kept Putin at bay because he flooded the world economy with cheap U.S. natural gas. He gave Europe an alternative, and he diplomatically, with economic strength, blocked the construction of a pipeline from Russia into Europe. So he was cutting into Putin's bottom line. Biden comes in day one, kills off our pipeline, greenlights their pipeline. Who's got money for invasion? Well, Putin does. It's very simple. And right now, unfortunately, it's gotten incredibly complicated because we've continued to send billions of dollars over there, and now we're in this position. We're in a better state than we were ever in the Cold War because we continue to escalate this. I think the American people are ready for an actual restrained foreign policy. Again, this is another place where I say the Democrats have just gotten in lockstep with corporate America and the military-industrial complex. The only people that have voted against this continued escalation, it's Republicans. It's not all Republicans. It's America First Republicans. Every single Democrat, from AOC and the squad to Bernie Sanders, they are now voting in lockstep with the military-industrial complex. They're voting with Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. That's where their head's at. So the Democrats, the whole dissent within the Democrat Party, it's all gone. But I think the American people are ready for a restrained foreign policy, and that's another key tenet of the America First agenda. So that's where we're at with the campaign, where we're going in 2 years and in 4 years. So the rest of the time is up to you guys. Just ask me any questions you have. Yes, sir.
I'm Pete Regan from Capline area. For over 100 years, families in Southwest Washington have thrived with our timber resources. And for the last 40, 50 years, there's just been a concerted attack by environmentalists to shut that down. Now, I love the environment. I mean, I'm all for doing the right thing by the environment. But the pendulum is strong so far. What will be your stand in Congress on helping people get back to work, get working for us?
Yeah, we need to revitalize our natural resources industry out here, starting with the timber industry. So, like you said, over the last 30, 40 years, it's been decimated. And have we actually been able to conserve our forests? No, the wildfires have gotten even worse. So it's a tragedy. We killed off all those jobs. We took away the ability for someone to get a decent paying job working as a logger or working in the mills. The mills were shipped overseas. And as a result, what do we get for it? We get forests that burn every single summer. So I think we need to get back to responsible, not just forest management, but responsible harvesting of the timber. The little bit of timber that we do harvest in our counties here in Washington and in the district, that little bit of timber, it doesn't, the money generated from that doesn't stay in the county. The county doesn't benefit from it at all. So I think pushing that down to the lowest level is essential. And then getting the EPA off of the back of these industries. Something right after I think Roe versus Wade was overturned, EPA versus the state of West Virginia ruled in favor of the state of West Virginia. It took a ton of power away from not just the EPA, but from all federal agencies. We need to evaluate.
Yep. Here, turn off all the lights. Turn off all the lights. Everyone get down.
Yeah, so that's a revitalize the timber industry. And the same thing with fishing. I mean, right before Labor Day, we had between bureaucrats in Washington, Oregon, and the federal level, we had the salmon season stopped right before Labor Day. Millions of dollars were lost. All the fishing guides that were flying in people from out of state, they lost their money. All the hotels and restaurants up and down the gorge, because the bureaucrats had made a decision that spring and they didn't update their numbers and they just said, well, this is our system, we're gonna shut it down. Who cares what happens to the little people down there who rely on the land? So over-regulation, absolutely key. I think we need to start cutting through a lot of that.
I have a friend who's a log hauler, and he has two questions he's running around asking. One is, of course, you've already covered the cost of oil. It is killing him, as an independent, trying to haul logs. And the other thing is, he feels like he's going to have to start packing here in Waukegan County, even going to some of the mills, because of the crime rate. And you've already touched on that briefly, but is there anything else that you want to say to him or anybody else that might be a log hauler?
Energy independence is absolutely critical because that's the cost of everything, business. Crime as well. The most important for crime here at the local level, we can help out with the southern border from the federal perspective. Local level, we need to make progress in Olympia so Jim and Joel can go up there and actually give our police the ability to actually be police officers and keep us safe. That's essential. We'll take care of the southern border. Those are the big ones. Another part of this too is just globalization in general. Our timber mills, our log industry was decimated, but then our timber mills were all shut down. If you look at the mill in the district in Camas, used to employ about 2,000 people. Koch Industries bought that up. They shipped the majority of those jobs overseas. The mill now employs less than 200 people. Same thing up in Longview and all that. A lot of those jobs have simply been shipped overseas. So I think we need more protectionist trade policies that say, hey, if you want to sell things here in America, you need to make it here in America with American workers so they don't have to compete with foreign labor markets to get the jobs back here, and then you drive the price down for people that are having to ship their logs overseas. Yes, sir.
Regarding foreign policy,
Yeah.
I look at it, think of an idea of reciprocity. What's good for us, we give them, they should give to us. What do you think on that?
Yeah, as far as foreign aid and stuff goes?
Yeah, foreign aid and just commercials, trade.
Yeah, look, America gets the short end of the stick. When you're talking about foreign aid, the vast majority of the foreign aid that we give out, we get very little, if nothing, in return whatsoever. Some lobbying groups, some defense contractors, they get paid, but the American people, what do we get for the billions of dollars that we send to Pakistan? Last time I checked, we caught bin Laden in Pakistan and had to kill him, and there's countless examples like this. So foreign aid needs to be return on investment. But then if you look at trade as well, America post-World War II, we are the ones that hold up this global order, but ironically, we're the ones that need the global order the least. We're blessed by divine providence. We have all the resources that we need here in America. We don't need this complex global shipping, global economy. Other countries, they might need that, but we are the ones, our Navy provides the security for this entire global commerce system. So I think we need to start having less massive trade deals with a bunch of different nations. We need to have more bilateral with just us and one country trade relations. But the trade, it has to be fair in terms of what America gets out of it. And I don't just mean getting a good deal on the goods that we're getting. I mean, are we able to actually still provide for our people? This is why I'm such a hawk about trade and about bringing back our manufacturing, because I think that our country we're not just an economy that looks out for our GDP. We have to be a country that has borders and actually cares about our people. So shipping our jobs overseas, that's good for the bottom line of some guys on Wall Street, but what effect did it have for people who used to work in the mills and all these different industries? Absolutely gutted our middle and working class. So I think bringing those back, and there's ways to do it. The Democrats, whenever they talk about bringing back manufacturing, like with the CHIPS Act, all they do is throw money at their favorite corporate interests, and they don't put any parameters on it. They don't prevent them from continuing to invest in foreign markets, getting parts from foreign markets, and they also they never address the immigration process. So I'm against immigration that takes a job away from an American. All these different special categories of visas where you bring people over to either do low-skilled or high-skilled labor, I'm against that. I think we need to be employing Americans, have a tight labor market for Americans. The Democrats will never ever address that. They'll always just say, oh, we need to raise the minimum wage. They know that they're not going to pay it because they're going to bring in cheap foreign labor, either illegally or legally, and undercut U.S. wages. So definitely tightening up the economy on that side is essential. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, sorry.
All right, just a quick question. I know, you're just popular with these questions. So in the last 2 years, we've incentivized hospitals to run COVID tests to encourage people to be treated in the hospitals. We've fired good doctors and nurses that were speaking out against these protocols, and we've brought doctors and nurses from outside of our shores here to push the agenda. So, do you see a solution to this? Do you see a consequence of this? And are we holding anybody accountable for these actions?
Yes. Ask the New York Times, I'm a radical because I want to go after these people, hold them accountable. I think that's essential for restoring public trust. But a big tool that we have is the federal budget. If you look at these last couple omnibus spending packages, everything from inflation reduction to Build Back Better to the initial COVID relief package that Biden put out. Not only was it horrible fiscal policy, trillions of dollars of debt we took on and got nothing for it, but they continued to fund the lockdowns. They continue to have all these different emergency funds granted for COVID. Biden still says the pandemic's over when he's on 60 Minutes going into the midterm, but they have yet to release the emergency orders, because with the emergency orders comes funding, and everything you just listed, incentivizing the tests, all this horrible, perverse practices that we now have in our medical system, that's still incentivized. So for me, again, we control the budget. I won't sign off on any more federal funding going to any of this nonsense. I personally don't think that Inslee could have kept our state locked down as long as he did, had we put our foot down and said, like, hey, the federal government's not going to fund this anymore. Because if he had to pay for all this with state funds, I don't think he would have been able to pull it off. Maybe for a while, but not for as long as he did. So while I'm there, I won't sign off on one more federal penny going to COVID anything that's going to result in more lockdowns and medical. And that's another huge big question the Democrats have too. Because I asked my opponent in the debate, hey, our country and our district got absolutely crushed by Inslee's COVID policies. Will you take a stand tonight and say, well, you'll never lock down the economy again? And she wouldn't do it. I mean, she's endorsed by Jay Inslee, and so again, the Democrats, they can say they're different all they want, but all the policies that Inslee enacted, which were some of the worst in the entire country, she thinks that that's a good course of action. And if we go back and we look at it, and we're what does she call it? We're practicing grievance politics. I just call it accountability.
Today, I received from the Washington Building Code Council a message, a text message, and I'll read it here. There's a link. Washington Building Code Council wants to take away your energy choice. Northwest Coalition for Energy Choice. Governor Inslee's hand-picked Washington State Building Code Council is voting soon to effectively ban natural gas in new homes. This unelected body wants to restrict energy choices, which will lead to higher housing costs, increased utility bills, and less dependable energy. You can stop them, but you must, let me go to the next, you must act fast. Please click the link below to submit public comment and speak out against this violation of your energy choice. And then I've got the web link for it. I'm not asking a question in regard to that as much as, well, are you aware of this?
Yeah, I mean, Jim touched on it a little bit. Basically, Inslee thinks that California is a good model to go with, and so we're gonna head down there. We're gonna look. This is everything that California is doing, and now Inslee's copying. This is Build Back Better. This is the conversion to green energy, and people should look at what's going on in Europe right now. The Greens have been running Germany, and Germany's been absolutely decimated right now because addicted to Russian oil for one, but then they also killed off all their other production. So this is the Democrat agenda. Again, this is another great time to ask a Democrat, like, hey, the country's being destroyed right now because of these energy policies, and Inslee's trying to take us in the direction of California. Show me the Democrat that's against it.
The other part
He
of
tried
what,
to get that passed as a law, and we were able to kill it as a bill in Olympia. So he went to the Building Code Council, and that's not a law, that's a bureaucratic code they're making. So they're trying to do with code what they couldn't do with law. And that's an abuse of the administrative code. The administrative code is supposed to follow the law, not be instead of it. But INSA doesn't care.
Yeah.
Never really wants to.
he's also, today I was made aware of, and I sat here trying to pull it up and it's eluding me. It was an open letter, and others on Facebook may have seen it too, because it got reposted over there. A letter to Garland from the CEOs of like AMA, American Murder Association, and a whole bunch of others, and they sent this big letter representing all these corporations, saying that they want to see places like Google and Twitter and Instagram basically censor and exclude and the whole thing. Anybody that they say that they would deem it misinformation if they're saying, yeah, okay, you're aware of that one.
I am. This is another place we need to power the purse strings to make sure a lot of that doesn't get. I mean, they tried to have administrative information just a couple months ago, and we exposed it. We can defund none of that has ever come. And then also go after. Once we get it, I think we need to take back the executive branch, but then go after and break up big tech so that this can't happen and take away a lot of their power. I think that's essential as well.
And the very last part, if I can, I'm sorry, I wanted to give some encouragement to everyone here. We received a new member of our family this spring, renting from us, and from Texas, and just can't believe how how conservative Texas is and all that. She's about a Democratic woman. And now this 6 months later that she's been here, she says, I just cannot believe how deceived I was. If I'd known this and this and that, now they, instead of us calling her our little Democrat, she said, just call me Indy. She said, but I'm definitely voting Republican.
Oh, good.
And that's all.
Here's our last question.
Good evening, I'm Gabby. I'm a Nurse Times, 42 years. I am also a survivor of the COVID illness, as is my husband. We barely survived the experience we had in the hospital. He was ventilated, and he was in the hospital for a month. I was in there for nearly 9 days. A good friend of mine has started a widows support group. We have 900 members of it who had family members murdered due to hospital protocols. I feel very strongly about this. And a friend of mine who cannot be here this evening gave me 5 points to reiterate here. I'm only going to ask for one right now, and I can email you the rest.
Please do.
And we need a law to ensure every patient has an advocate at the bedside. It is criminal. It is unsocietal. I mean, Stone Age people had rituals to take care of their ill and their dying. And we didn't allow a single patient to have family members advocating for him. I'm incensed. I'm incensed. And I have the dubious privilege of having been born in the birth town of Hitler in Austria. I'm an immigrant. I came here legally, by the way. I just want it to be known, I don't want to have brown shirts, hunting me down and turning me into the government because I resist certain procedures. So anyway, I feel strongly about it. I would love to support you in any which way we can. Thank you for standing up for Americans.
Absolutely. Thank you.
tells me, and it absolutely makes sense. First of all, we in this area are very blessed because we have a really good clean source of energy. That dam creates a great source of energy. And the big deal for the fishermen was that, the dam was